When Donald Trump declared, "Canada only survives thanks to the United States," many heard insult. But those fluent in the language of power heard something else. An ultimatum. A statement that cannot be unsaid. And while Western allies looked stunned, Beijing understood instantly. This was a gift. At Davos 2026, Donald Trump did not merely return as president. He returned as architect. His words were not improvised, not accidental. They were design, a blueprint for a world where alliances are no longer partnerships but transactions. Where protection is not a right, but a service. A service that comes with conditions, with submission. For decades, the United States stood as the cornerstone of a transatlantic order built on shared values and mutual defense. Trump reduced it to a service provider-client relationship in public, on camera, at the most elite gathering of Western power. This was not a speech. It was a doctrine, one that replaces solidarity with sovereignty, consensus with command. The old language of diplomacy died in that moment, and the world took note. Canada, once shielded by geography and treaties, was reclassified, not as ally, but as dependent. The message to other nations was clear: if this is how America treats its closest neighbor, imagine what it will demand of you. The illusion of unity shattered, and in its place, the fortress began to rise. China, watching from afar, did not need to respond. It only needed to point. Trump had validated its message to the global South. The West is not your friend. It is your master. Choose differently. What happened in Davos was not a scandal. It was a signal. A new chapter has begun. One ultimatum at a time. Pull back from Davos. Look at the map. What you see is the longest undefended border on Earth, 8,891 kilometers of quiet geography. No walls, no tanks, just a line. A line that divides two sovereign states, but has long concealed something else. A shared economic circulatory system. Canada and the United States are not allies in the conventional sense. They are codependents in a continental engine. 75% of Canadian exports flow south. American manufacturing depends on Canadian aluminum, steel, energy, timber, Arctic warning systems, integrated aerospace industries, and NORAD surveillance all make Canada an extension of American defense. What Trump shattered at Davos was not just a diplomatic courtesy. He shattered the implicit understanding that security between these nations was mutual. By declaring Canada only survives thanks to the United States, he did more than insult, he redefined. Canada, in his words, does not coexist with America, it subsists because of it. This is the vocabulary of supremacy, of hierarchy. It echoes ancient political forms. Not sovereigns, but suzerain and vassal. The transformation is not legal, it is psychological, strategic, and deeply public. The assumption that an attack on Canada is an attack on the United States has long underpinned defense doctrine. Article 5 of NATO. The NORAD command structure. The deployment of radars across northern territories. All were built on the logic of mutual interest. Trump replaced that logic with a transaction. Freebies, he called them. A word with a chilling subtext. That protection, intelligence sharing, early warning capabilities are not guarantees, they are favors. Revocable, conditional, and most disturbingly, owed. Prime Minister Mark Carney understood this instantly. In his own speech, delivered one day prior, he did not speak of policy shifts or strategic recalibrations. He used a word that detonated across think tanks and intelligence briefings: rupture. Not transition. Not evolution. Rupture. Because transition implies continuity. Rupture implies irreversibility. Something has broken. A trust has been withdrawn. And what replaces it is not defiance, but adaptation. Carney called on middle powers Canada, Japan, Australia, European democracies to stop pretending that the old order still functions. Instead, he urged coalitions of the willing. Issue by issue, agreement by agreement, no illusions, just survival. His words were careful, but their implication was radical. The United States is no longer a reliable ally. It is a conditional hegemon. The price of continued access to protection is obedience. From Beijing's perspective, this was confirmation delivered on a silver platter. For years, China has accused the West of hypocrisy, preaching partnership while practicing dominance. Trump's statement in Davos confirmed it in real time. The Global South saw what Beijing had always said. American friendship is a hierarchy with the illusion of choice. This matters. Because the battle for global influence is not waged only with weapons or money. It is waged with credibility. And when America signals that even its closest neighbor must submit to avoid being punished, that credibility erodes. In boardrooms in Delhi, in ministries in Pretoria, in presidential palaces in Brasilia, Trump's words became data points, proof that the West's unity is optional, its support transactional, its alliances hierarchical. The Canadian ultimatum is not just a message to Ottawa. It is a message to the world. America is building a fortress. If you are not inside, you are on your own. If you are inside, you may be reminded who built the walls. Now look further north. Pull the map higher. The Arctic reveals a different logic, one not drawn by treaties or flags, but by physics. The shortest path for an intercontinental ballistic missile launched from Russia or China toward North America is not over the Pacific or Atlantic. It is over the top, over the Arctic, over Greenland. This is not real estate. This is trajectory. And trajectory defines vulnerability. Trump once called Greenland a big, beautiful piece of ice. The world laughed, assuming this was another real estate fantasy from a man who sees geopolitics like Manhattan zoning. But what Trump wanted was not land. He wanted placement. He wanted the right to place interceptors beneath the flight path of enemy missiles. Because the next war, if it comes, will not wait for the horizon. It will arrive from above. The Golden Dome is no longer a theory. It is hardware. A $500 billion missile defense system designed to make the American homeland nearly invulnerable. Hypersonic interceptors, satellite constellations, early launch detection systems in near space. This is not science fiction. It is procurement. Congress has already committed $24.4 billion as a down payment. SpaceX has a $2 billion contract. Over 2,000 companies are on the SHIELD architecture. To make the system work, geography must cooperate. That means Greenland. But Denmark, Greenland's sovereign, was reluctant. Europe was cautious. Trump was not. He announced 10% tariffs on 8 European countries: France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, and Finland. Escalation was already scheduled, 25% by June. It was not a threat. It was leverage. The result? NATO folded. A framework was announced. Details remain classified. But Trump declared it would be infinite. A deal that lasts forever. Whether ownership is involved is unclear. What is clear is the precedent. Territory for protection. Trade access in exchange for strategic surrender. Europe blinked, and in that blink, the geometry of global defense changed. The idea of mutual defense, of shared vulnerability, was always the foundation of deterrence. NATO worked because no one member could be isolated. Trump just isolated them. Greenland became proof of concept. Protection can be weaponized. Alliance can be monetized. For the Europeans, this was a Nixon moment. The realization that the guarantor of their security could also become the threat. For Russia and China, it was a strategic nightmare. The Golden Dome undermines nuclear parity. It creates a logic of first strike, use it or lose it. If America can shoot down your missiles but you cannot shoot down theirs, you lose unless you strike first. This is not balance. It is provocation. For decades, the doctrine of mutual assured destruction kept peace through symmetry. The Golden Dome seeks to erase symmetry. But asymmetry invites instability. It makes the logic of restraint fragile, because the side that feels cornered may choose to strike before it loses the ability to strike at all. This is not theory. This is history. And Trump is rewriting it. The Arctic is melting. Sea lanes are opening. Battleships and icebreakers are moving north. What once was frozen silence is now contested space. And the United States is building walls in the sky. Greenland is not about ice. It is about immunity. And immunity, when claimed by one and denied to others, is not security. It is a fuse. Split the screen. On one side, wind turbines spinning slowly in the snow-covered fields of Germany. On the other, gas flares erupting in Texas. Nuclear cooling towers humming in Pennsylvania. These are not just energy images. They are fault lines of global power. Artificial intelligence is not code. It is energy. Data centers require gigawatts, not gigabytes. Every chatbot, every algorithm, every AI model feeds on electricity. The future is electric, but not all electricity is equal. The winner of the AI race is not the one with the best software. It is the one who can keep the lights on. Trump understands this in the language of numbers. Europe debates ethics. Trump counts megawatts. Since 2024, the United States has broken records in energy production. 108 billion cubic feet of gas per day. 24.2 million barrels of oil per day. Together, that exceeds Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Nuclear plants are back online. Permits are being fast-tracked. Environmental regulations are slashed. The AI Action Plan of 2025 created categorical exclusions for energy-intensive data centers. Approvals once taking 5 years now take weeks. The message is clear. Innovation needs energy. And America will supply it without apology. In Europe, by contrast, electricity prices have spiked. Manufacturers are relocating. AI labs are struggling with energy access. The continent's green transition, once a moral high ground, is becoming a strategic liability. Wind and solar, admirable in theory, falter in execution. Intermittency, storage gaps, grid stress. Europe is trying to power the fourth industrial revolution with the energy tools of the last century. Trump mocked this as the Green New Scam. He ridiculed turbines as bird killers. But beneath the mockery is strategy. Deregulation is not chaos. It is acceleration. Every regulation removed is a barrier lifted. Every shortcut is a head start. Europe debates, and America builds. And while Trump laughs, China listens. Beijing sees a vacuum. If America abandons green energy and Europe cannot supply it, China steps in. It offers solar panels, wind farms, EV infrastructure. Europe, caught between two superpowers, begins importing Chinese technology for its green ambitions. The irony is exquisite. Trump mocks wind. China sells it. Europe buys it. This is not just a supply chain shift. It is an influence shift. Energy dependence creates geopolitical vulnerability. If Europe cannot trust America's energy or afford its AI arms race, and if China offers both at scale, the choice is no longer ideological. It is economic. The what war is about control. Control of power in the most literal sense. And as the AI revolution accelerates, energy becomes the coin of technological sovereignty. Trump's energy-first strategy is building a fortress of computing. But every watt burned in isolation is a bridge burned abroad. The more power America holds, the fewer partners it keeps. And China? China builds cables, windmills, batteries. It doesn't need to outpower America. It only needs to outconnect it. In the end, the power that matters most is not just what flows through wires, but what flows through alliances. The West once led both. Now, it risks losing both. The what war has begun. Davos was never about public speeches. It was about what happened between them in corridors, lounges, and closed-door sessions. But in 2026, something changed. The public stage became the battleground, and what played out on that stage was not policy, it was power theater. Trump's speech was not just a rejection of diplomatic language. It was the burial. What the world witnessed was not a misstep. It was a funeral. The funeral of diplomatic etiquette. The funeral of the transatlantic myth. The funeral of partnership as a principle. Trump did not hesitate. He looked straight into the eyes of allies and labeled them dependents. He mocked Europe's values, dismissed their priorities, and dictated terms. He did not offer cooperation. He offered conditions, and he did so with the calm confidence of a man who believes leverage is loyalty. This was not the America of Roosevelt or Reagan. It was not even the America of early Trumpism, filled with contradiction and bluster. It was coherent, cold, calculated, and that made it more dangerous, because what Trump offered was not a vision of shared prosperity. It was a price list. Missile defense comes with tariffs. Trade access comes with silence. Military coordination comes with obedience. What was once considered strategic cooperation is now repackaged as strategic extraction. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, understood the moment. In her reply, she did not dispute the facts. She disputed the framing. She called it Europe's Nixon moment, a moment when an ally signals that the old assumptions are dead, and that the burden of strategy now shifts from Washington to Brussels. The European response was swift but strained. The Rearm Europe Plan €800 billion for defense by 2030. New exemptions from fiscal rules. Investments in domestic arms production. But the numbers, though impressive on paper, pale in comparison to American scale. And more importantly, they betray the underlying emotion: panic. Davos was supposed to be a summit of equals. It became a display of asymmetry. China did not have to disrupt the West. The West disrupted itself. Trump handed Beijing the perfect propaganda reel. An American president humiliating his allies, redefining partnership as patronage, treating security as a subscription service. The message to the global South was clear. Washington does not lead coalitions. It manages clients. And the clients have no say in the contract. What died in Davos was not just unity, it was the illusion of parity. The idea that Europe, Canada, Japan, longtime allies were partners in shaping the world order. Trump did not just reject that idea, he erased it, publicly, and in doing so, he broke a spell. The spell that made the Western alliance feel permanent, inevitable, self-sustaining. It was never permanent. It was maintained by trust, mutual gain, and shared risk. Remove those pillars, and what remains is a facade. Davos revealed the cracks. Trump widened them. The funeral was not solemn. It was strategic. And as the cameras rolled, Beijing prepared the eulogy. The cameras in Davos pointed toward the Alps. But the real audience was thousands of miles away. In Delhi, Nairobi, Jakarta, Sao Paulo capitals across the global South. Trump's speech was not received as provocation. It was received as confirmation. Confirmation of everything they had long suspected. Everything Beijing had quietly been whispering for a decade. America has no allies. It has subordinates. And if it treats Canada this way, what hope does anyone else have? This narrative is not new. China has invested years cultivating it. That the West's rules-based order is just a mask for control. That talk of democracy and sovereignty is weaponized hypocrisy. That trade deals are traps, and alliances are obligations dressed up as opportunities. But these were talking points. Until Davos, Trump gave the global South footage, not theory. He stood on the world's most elite stage and turned diplomacy into dominance, friendship into favor, and gratitude into tribute. The foreign ministries took notes. The development banks paid attention, because beneath every Chinese loan offer is now a new pitch. We do not demand obedience. We build roads. America demands alignment. We offer respect. For decades, the global South has lived under Western instruction. Structural adjustments, IMF conditions, democracy benchmarks, military advisors, aid with strings, access with limits. Now they see options. The Belt and Road Initiative spans 150 countries. Its infrastructure may be uneven, its contracts opaque, its debt terms controversial, but it comes with one powerful message. We do not tell you how to run your country. And for leaders tired of lectures, that message resonates more than ever. Trump, perhaps unintentionally, became China's best salesman. He reframed the West not as partner, but as predator. The ally who demands, the protector who humiliates, the hegemon who invoices. In Africa, the Americas, Southeast Asia, this matters. These regions are no longer geopolitical spectators. By 2027, they will represent more than 50% of global GDP growth, more than 60% of the world's population, and increasingly, a decisive share of global votes at the UN. In trade blocs, in climate negotiations, their perceptions are not posturing. They are policy. Brazil's senior advisor put it bluntly after Davos. We are watching carefully. Trump reminds us why we diversify. In other words, don't put all your chips on a fortress. And that fortress America, is building walls even its friends cannot climb. The global South is not naive. It understands power. It knows China has its own ambitions. But it also knows this. Humiliation is not a condition of Chinese partnership. It is now a predictable feature of American loyalty. And that makes all the difference. Davos, 2026, was supposed to be about collaboration in an intelligent age. What it delivered was something else entirely. A moment of clarity for those long treated as bystanders. They are bystanders no more. They are building their own tables, their own terms, their own futures, and they are doing it while watching America turn inward, one ultimatum at a time. Look again at the map. Not at borders, but at walls. America is building one. Not a physical barrier like the southern border wall, but a systemic one built from energy, missiles, deregulation, and economic leverage. A wall of self-sufficiency, a wall of immunity, a wall that promises security through separation. It's working. The American economy is growing. Energy is cheap and abundant. The Golden Dome is under construction. Defense spending is up. Foreign policy is lean, unilateral, and deeply effective on its own terms. But the cost is hidden in the mirrors, not in the numbers. Every victory in Washington comes with a crack in the alliance system. Every economic leverage applied becomes a reason for others to seek alternatives. Every ultimatum issued turns a partner into a planner. Planning for a world where America is not a given, not a center, not even a necessity. This is the paradox of the fortress. The more impenetrable you become, the more isolated you grow. The more you weaponize strength, the more you incentivize avoidance. Fortresses are seductive. They feel permanent, powerful, self-contained. But history offers a warning. The Soviet Union built a fortress of ideology. It collapsed when the world stopped caring about its message. Imperial Japan built a fortress of militarism. It was starved when the world refused to feed it. The British Empire built a fortress of sea lanes. It was bankrupted by wars it technically won but economically lost. Trump's America is not copying these models. It is creating a new one. A fortress of dominance in technology, energy, and defense. But the result may be the same, because a fortress cannot trade freely. It cannot negotiate genuinely. It cannot share leadership. It can only impose or retreat. This is the trap. The more powerful America becomes behind its walls, the less influence it has beyond them. The more it demands tribute from allies, the more those allies imagine a world without tribute, and the more it signals that protection is conditional. The more others seek insurance elsewhere. China is watching, not to attack the fortress, but to surround it, to build networks the fortress cannot reach, to offer deals it cannot match, to fill the vacuum left by burned bridges. And the global south? It is already inside China's orbit, if not economically, then emotionally. They are not vassals, not yet, but they are voters. In markets, in narratives, in the world's imagination. In Trump's version of the world, America stands alone and unchallenged. In reality, it may end up standing alone and unwelcome. The strength of the fortress is not in its walls. It is in what lies beyond them, the trust of those who choose to stay connected. Lose that, and all you have is stone. Trump has won battles. He may even win the war he imagines. But history does not reward the strongest. It rewards the most connected, and walls, no matter how tall, are always shorter than bridges. The headlines will focus on the missiles, the tariffs, the speeches, but history will remember something quieter. The moment the architecture cracked. Davos 2026 was not the beginning of the end. It was the end of pretending. The end of pretending that the West speaks with one voice, that alliances are unshakable, that values outrank interests. Trump did not break the world. He revealed it. He revealed that strength without solidarity is just isolation. That protection offered as threat is not protection. That friends forced into obedience become strangers looking for exits. What replaces the old order is still forming. A world of overlapping coalitions, of competitive connectivity, of states hedging, recalculating, and remembering. Remembering every time America made loyalty feel like debt. In that world, the United States may still be the richest, the strongest, the most advanced, but it will also be the loneliest, because no one follows a fortress. No one rallies to a wall, and in a fragmented world, power without trust is noise. The age of alliances built on myth is over. The next age belongs to those who build something else. Bridges.